Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to Skyrim lore. Now I want to focus on the time during the 200 years after the 4th era began, and basically Skyrim's beginning. I also want to note that this episode contains spoilers from the Elder Scrolls books, so if you have not read the books and plan on reading them, I would not really listen to this episode. But if you have no plans on reading them, go ahead and continue listening, because there is quite a bit of information we can take from them. Okay, so shortly after the bloodline of the Septims officially ended, the Empire began to crumble. Provinces began to secede from the Empire in its weakened, leaderless state, taking advantage of it. Most provinces began to repel Imperial rule. Morrowind, Elsweyr, Valenwood, Somerset Isles, and Black Marsh succeeded from the Empire. So basically all the Elven provinces and all the Beast race provinces. The human provinces and the orcs obviously stuck with the Empire. If you're wondering why, obviously because the humans are the leaders of the Empire, basically, and the orcs are really tied in with the Imperial Legion, so they were definitely going to stay with the Empire. Now, I would like to point out how similar this is to when King Borgus died in the first Nordic Empire, and the Moot could not find a proper heir, because he was the last of the Skrammer line. So it caused a lot of problems, obviously, and almost caused the Empire to collapse. However, sometime in the 35 years after the 4th era began, the first Elder Scrolls book began 40 years later, and at that time, there was a new emperor, and so I'm going to say about 35 years, sometime in that time after the 4th era began, a Colovian warlord named Titus Mede takes over the imperial city by force and crowns himself emperor. So this may sound like he's like a dictator, and he really isn't. I mean, emperors in any kind of, monarchy is not like necessarily a good thing, but it was a pretty good thing at this time because it finally gave the Empire a single leader, and Titus Mede does manage to do quite a few great things. And I think it's pretty important that the reason I tell you this is because I think it's important that you know how the Mede dynasty began. Sometime in the 40 years after the 4th era began, Vivec, one of the Morrowind tribunal gods, disappears, causing the Ministry of Truth to become unstable. If you don't know what the Ministry of Truth is, I highly recommend getting on Google and looking up an image of it. It's basically a giant rock that's floating next to Vivec, which is a city. In order to keep it afloat, souls of people were used to power it. Eventually, a Dunmer, which is a dark elf, named Sol, put an end to this when his wife's soul was used to keep up the ministry. As a result of the ministry no longer having souls, it crashed into the city of Vivec, causing the Red Mountain to erupt, which is the big volcano in the middle of Vardenfell. As a result of this eruption, all of Vardenfell was covered in ash, and the water around it was turned into basically this giant boiling sea of water. Also, in its weakened state, Morrowind was invaded by the Argonians of Black Marsh, basically because for many, many years, the Argonians of Black Marsh were slaves to the Dark Elves of Morrowind, and this was kind of payback for them. So, by the end of the assault on Morrowind, much of southern Morrowind is lost to Black Marsh, and I've even heard that all of Morrowind had been conquered, but we'll see about that with Skyrim. I'm not exactly sure on that, because I've heard a couple different things. And basically after this, Morrowind is just screwed. All the Dark Elves are not killed, however. The survivors move north to Solstheim, and a pretty surprising thing happened. Skyrim actually allowed the Dunmer to settle there. They practically gave the island of Solstheim to the Dunmer. And while some may believe that this is just out of the goodness of, the Nords' hearts, a lot of people believe that they basically just did this because they didn't feel like fighting over Solstheim. They felt like, that's just Solstheim, who cares about it, let's just give it to them, and we'll avoid a conflict. The reason they think this is because Nords and Dark Elves have been, ancient enemies, so it was strange for them to do this, and I'm thinking the latter is probably the reason why the Nords gave it to them. But it remains to be seen. We might figure out whether that's true or not with Skyrim. Now begins the events of the Infernal City, in which a large floating island called Umbriel appears. slowly beginning its approach to the Imperial City. Anyone below the city has their soul stolen and is turned into a zombie-like creature following the command of a dumber named Wuhan, who is the ruler of Umbriel. Many cities are destroyed and its people are turned into mindless zombies. Black Marsh is most likely the province hardest hit by this attack. Shane Nall was attacked in Cyrodiil, and the island of Solstheim also suffered some damage. The outcome of the Elder Scrolls book series is that the Mead bloodline is continued, meaning that they will most likely be the emperors in Skyrim. The Infernal City will stop before it reached the Imperial City, but at the sacrifice of many Imperial soldiers and citizens of the Empire and other provinces. Also, the events shown will most likely spell an increase of Dark Elves in Skyrim because of their move north. We've already been told their culture will be prominent in the city of Winterhold. Anyways, I hope you guys found this informative. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.